how you doing? It's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net, and in this video what I'm going to be talking to you about is some of the hardware I use on a daily basis to create my comic book art. Now, I work digital and the tools I use are nothing fancy, I can tell you that. I don't use a Cintiq or anything. In fact, what I use is a 10-year-old tablet that is very old but very dependable, and here it is. Okay. Right, an Intuos 3, Wacom Intuos 3 tablet, and I draw on it just like this. Okay, so I draw onto it like that, and whatever I draw onto that screen transfers up onto the monitor as I'm working. Now, as you can see, that tablet is actually, it's quite a small drawing space actually. It's not very big at all. And I really don't need a big space to draw, and I find that if a tablet is too big, that it takes me longer to draw a line from one point to the next. So I actually prefer the space that I've got available to work within, and it really doesn't matter because ultimately when you're working digital you can zoom in as much as you need to in order to work on various areas of your art. So it's quite customizable. You're never confined to either your hardware or the software you're using, and you can kind of balance out the two in order to calibrate your workflow as needed. Now, you may use an Intuos 6, Intuos 5, you may use a Cintiq, you may use pencil and paper. It really does not matter. A lot of what you're going to learn in this course is applicable across the board because we're going to be covering fundamentals like form and proportion and figure drawing and that kind of stuff. Even as far as the inking goes, yeah, I'll be showing you how to ink digitally within Manga Studio, but at the same time, if you do want to work traditionally as far as the inks are concerned, you can also do that as well. You're still going to use line weights in traditional line art as opposed to digital line art. It's all the same. So really all that is different is the actual tools you use to execute each of these processes, but the processes themselves will be consistent regardless of the medium that you're working within. So just keep that in mind, that you don't need to be using an Intuos 3 in order to do what it is you're seeing me do within this course. All you need to do is calibrate the amount of pressure you're applying, your brush size, or your the amount of the heaviness of the lead within your pencil, the size of the pens that you're using if you're doing it traditionally, in order to get the line that you're looking for. The rest of it actually comes from your own technique, the way that you throw a line down, the gesture that you use, the speed at which you work. This all kind of comes into play as far as getting the aesthetic solidified that you want your style to take on. So that kind of covers the hardware that I use as far as the drawing tools. But beyond that, I also have a dual monitor display setup. It's right over here, you can't see it, but it's basically consists of two monitors. That's what I work on. One of those monitors has what I'm drawing on the screen present. I'm looking at that and drawing onto the tablet as I work, and it's kind of coming together. On the other monitor, what I have is my references. Okay, now we're going to cover references in a little bit more detail in the next few videos, in one of the next few videos. But essentially all that consists of is things like anatomy and the style that you want to go for, and the actual, references of the actual assets that your character designs consist of. But ultimately, this is going to be something that you want to have available to you at a glance so that you can kind of work in a more optimal way. If you have to get up those references and they're scattered all over the place and you have to track them down, over and over again, every time you want to reference something, that's going to really put a spanner in the works and slow you down. One of the most attractive things about the digital workflow, for me at least, is the optimized process that we're able to go through. I don't have to really worry about buying new pencils, new pens, or inks, or anything like that. All I do is I work digitally, and all the tools that I need are all there, ready to go each and every single time. They don't need to be renewed or refilled in any way. And the really cool part about it all is that whether you work traditionally or digitally, it doesn't really matter these days because your work will ultimately be in printed form regardless, okay? The end product, what your audience consumes, is going to be on printed paper. So you don't really have to worry about that stuff too much. It's certainly something that I don't concern myself with at all. and you shouldn't either. I know that it's very easy to kind of get caught up with this stuff, especially when you're just starting out. One of the things that I thought I needed to know first and foremost was the exact tools that the artists who I was looking at were using, and that can help most definitely. In this case, though, I am telling you that you don't need the exact tools that I'm using. You can kind of use what you've got, and I would suggest that you do that. You jump straight into this course head first with what you've got. If it's just a pencil and paper, start it anyway. If it's an earlier model tablet, go right ahead. Just jump into it. It does not matter. And ultimately, if you're working on a Cintiq or another tablet. There's the Windows tablet these days as well. You can also use that. There's no stopping you. Photoshop, and we'll get into software as well. Photoshop and Manga Studio, very affordable. Photoshop offers a monthly subscription that you could even just use for this particular course, and you'd be all set. Really, the only areas you'll run into as far as not having the available software or tools is probably the coloring stages throughout the rest of this course, but we'll get onto that, and we'll talk about how to deal with that a little bit later on. But for now, no matter what tools you're using, you should be able to pencil up a character and then ink them and create a polished looking finished line art illustration that presents your idea with clarity. Other than that, I guess the other thing I should mention is my computer specs, just so that you know how old and embarrassing my computer is. It's about 5-10 years old. It has about 12 gigabytes of RAM. That's it. Very old graphics card that wouldn't play any of the modern day games. You don't need a gaming computer to do this stuff. If you find that your computer is lagging a little bit as you're working within these digital software applications, then my suggestion would be to just work at a lower resolution, and that should solve many of the memory problems that could potentially happen on a PC which has lower specs. Okay, now of course the more processing power and the graphics acceleration, the better. That's always going to be awesome for creating higher and higher resolution artwork. You don't need it for this course. Again, this is really just something that you can jump straight into with what you've got available to you. So don't wait, get started. And on that note, we'll jump onto the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you got some insight out of it. I'll see you again soon.